Welcome to the Dreams of Consciousness podcast. If you'd be so kind, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, I'm Adam Korchok of Death Doom band Ischemic.
Now, you say Death Doom. What do you mean by that exactly?
Well, I would say we don't try to stick to too many rules, but essentially the sort of extreme doom sound is kind of where we find our baseline for the most part. So we definitely have no problems jumping into something that has a bit more of a black metal influence on a track, or maybe something that gets a little, probably leans a little sludgy as well. But generally where we base our sound out of is definitely the Death Doom, extreme doom kind of sound there.
So we'll talk about this a little bit when we talk about your songwriting and the history of the band. But why Death Doom? Why was that the sound that you guys gravitated towards?
It was originally vocalist Isabel's idea. It was based. I'm the sort of guy where I love every kind of metal there is. Really, if you wanted me to be in a symphonic power metal band, I'd do it. But she was looking for people to do Death Doom, and at the time I was on a huge Autopsy kick. So I saw that, and I was like, very down. I will definitely join a band like that, and here we are today.
And as far as the black metal influence, would you say that, at least with your most recent recordings, that atmosphere is a big part of your sound?
We definitely went a lot more for that on this album for sure. Atmosphere has definitely been there for us, but I think on this album, especially the last track, Scattering, we definitely tried to have more kind of bleak but also dreamy sort of atmospheres on a few of the tracks.
So we'll get to this latest release in a little while. You mentioned the band was put together with yourself and vocalist Isabella. Can you tell me a little bit more about how you guys met and what the early years of the band were like?
Yeah, so we met through a kind of a local listing site here called Kijiji. Isabel had put up an ad saying, "Oh, I'm looking for people who want to do Death Doom." And I crossed by it while also looking for some people to jam with. So we sort of, she pulled together a few people from the scene into one big Facebook group, which was a new thing at the time in like 2010. And we all sort of started kind of pulling some ideas together and seeing, who liked what various people's ideas, and it kind of boiled down to Isabel, me, another friend of hers, Mike, on guitar, a guy who had also come through Kijiji, Colin, and one of her friends on bass, Arnie. From there, the lineup's been a little bit more drastic than that, but we did finally stabilize, maybe 1 or 2 years after, I'd say around 2012, 2013, when a friend of mine, Anthony, joined on bass, and we got Tyler in on guitar. And that's sort of been the solid quad, practicing out of rehearsal factories, which are like local rentable spaces for jamming and such around here. And kind of, just coming up with ideas and, a lot of stuff I put forward at first, but, Ty's obviously, as he's come into the band more, has also put forward a lot of ideas as well. So just a lot of, working off, structure, like skeleton structures that I just kind of jam out and record on my phone at home off my amp and kind of bring forth and jam on that and then pull together what we could from that.
Now, for those early recordings, what was your songwriting process like, and how soon did you guys sense that the music you were making was the music that you guys wanted to do?
I think the first, like the most of the songs, the way they tend to work is that I'll come in with basically a finished sort of song idea. Like I'll have, basically the gist of how I want it to start and end, and where I want, say like a big epic riff or something like that ends out the song. And then I'm obviously very open to people's opinions and working around structural changes and transitions and stuff like that. So a lot of it is, just kind of dissecting what I have and then doing the musical math of it and being like, it doesn't make sense for this to go this many times and such like that. I think we've pretty much everyone's gone into this knowing that, like we're going to stick to a more extreme doom sound, but like anything that they want to do within that realm, they're allowed to play with. Where it's one of those, as long as it sounds good, it sounds good. Like our second EP has a straight up just like black punk song because we had so much fun with it that we're like, let's keep it on there. It's simple, put it in. But I think even when the first song that I pulled together for the for the band, which was the heaviest of burdens, playing with those sort of slower death, slower riffing or the slower drumming to more death metally parts. I think everyone had a lot of fun with being able to move around, but also not be as demanding on what they have to do and worry about extreme precision, like in a lot of like the technical death metals and stuff like that, and also having time where it's just just head bobbing slow doom bits, a chance to drink a beer and stuff like that. So I think the fact that everyone came in already liking the genre as well, I think helped. So yeah, it's the fact that we still had fun with it going this far in, I think is probably a good indicator that we hit the nail on the head for the kind of music we like to make as artists.
Now, are you still handling the bulk of the songwriting?
I'd say it's split down the middle now. Like Ty definitely, because there was about 4 songs written when Ty came in, and so I was kind of the habit was mainly me pushing stuff. But on the last 2 or 3 records, he's definitely started pushing more ideas in, and I'm very open to stuff. And he plays a little bit more in a kind of weird jazzy style than me. So it takes a little getting used to for me, but he had to get used to my songwriting too. So I'd say now it's kind of merged more to a 50-50 kind of thing.
Now, I mean, people can hear this from the releases that you have a bunch on your Bandcamp page, but your songwriting and your sound has evolved throughout the years. How much of that was intentional and how much of that was just you guys getting to know each other as musicians and as collaborators?
It's kind of a cop-out, but a bit of both. There's definitely, songs you can hear where it's like definitely something I put forward, or some of the first songs Ty brought forward, you can tell were very different from the group together. They worked in, where they fit, but you can kind of pick them out. Nowadays, I think also with just the recording process and going through that and kind of thinking, okay, well, am I really going to want to do this like 19 times for a super long bit? Or, just seeing the way people react to some songs, I think has also played probably the slightly bigger role. Like, I think me and Ty came in on like a pretty amicable level of like the way we jam. Like we definitely kind of go to the same place riff wise. So as much as we've melded our songwriting around each other, it wasn't like that big of a hassle to get around. So I would say just, the practical audience response in conjunction with the recording process and how these things are actually going to be done when they're put on an album is the main evolving factor, I'd say.
So we didn't mention your drummer, Campbell, but I should mention that Campbell has been on this podcast before. I spoke to him, I believe, 6 to 8 weeks ago.
Yeah.
About his other band, Mors Verum. How did Campbell end up joining the band?
Campbell joined, so I guess I feel that I should have mentioned him in that first lineup solidification. But he joined about almost 2 years ago now, after our longtime drummer Chris Orr had left. Because he was always a friend of the band. Like we've been friends with him since probably 2013 is 2014, around there. So, and he had, in this time, he had been teaching himself drums. And when he was like, hey, I like your guys' band, I'd like to come in on drums, we were like, step right in, come. And knowing how amazing Mors Verum is and how proficient he is at pulling songs together and doing the kind of stuff that we like to do, he was on the same page musically and everything. So he's been a great addition to the band. And he got in, he nailed it. He was great technically and melded right in immediately. Now, does Campbell give a lot of input on the songwriting and the arrangement of the songs? So with the recording of our last album, half the songs were kind of done, so he didn't quite get the chance to input as much as he wanted. I think he did a little bit, but he's also kind of in the state where, with him doing Mors Verum and all this stuff, he's used to being the guy to pull everything together. So he's kind of said to himself, like, I only let myself do too much, or then I'll just start pulling it into my own direction. And then, the democracy falls apart or whatever. That's what he said, at least. But now that we're starting to do some writing again, he's definitely a very good, I'd say, producer role, like saying, keep doing that riff that many times. times, and he is starting to put forward some creative ideas that we're some song ideas that we're very curious to and excited to start working on. But it's very early in the process now to say truly, I guess. But I'm totally open to everything that he's willing to put forward, and so far what he has put forward is really good. So